Gandhi's Salt March was a march led by Mohandas Gandhi through western India. It was a form of protest against the British salt tax. Gandhi led over 2,000 people to Dandi, walking 241 miles in a course of 24 days, completing approximately 12 miles a day until the group of protesters finally reached Dandi. This was a major event in history because of how many people were involved. This march not only ended the British salt tax, but it also led to India's independence from Britain's rule over India. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, commonly known as Mahatma Gandhi, was born on October 2nd, 1869 in Porbandar, Kathawar, India. What is today's Gujarat, India? His father, Karamchand Gandhi, was the head of government or chief minister in some states of western India. His mother, Pitabai, took her religious practices very seriously. Gandhi was raised following Jainism, a religion from India that does not support violence and consists of fasting and following a vegetarian diet. At the age of 13, he married Kasturba Kanji through an arranged marriage. Gandhi's ambitions were to become a doctor. However, his parents wanted him to also be involved in the government, so he attended law school in London in 1888. After returning back to India, he learned his mother had recently passed away following the death of his father back in 1885 and his first son. This resulted in Gandhi's endeavoring working in a courthouse. British salt tax had been placed on India even before Britain could rule over them. Originally, India was to pay a tax for imported salt, but later on, once Britain took rule, India wasn't allowed to make their own salt and the tax on imported salt was raised. Some people weren't too ecstatic about the tax. The first to protest were the Chamber of Commerce in Bristol. They wrote a petition saying they should get rid of the salt tax because salt is an important need for the everyday diet in India, and not all people can afford to pay the additional tax on the salt. There was also a person who spoke out against the salt tax in the Indian National Congress. He also voiced a similar stance on the tax. S.A. Salmon Nair said it would be bad policy in the retrograde movement to raise the tax, especially at a time when the poor millions of India are anxiously looking forward to a further reduction of the tax. However, these tests weren't enough and led to Gandhi's well-known Salt March. Gandhi had decided he'd protest the salt tax by going to Dandi, which is on the coast of the Arabian Sea. On March 12, 1930, he set out from his ashram on his 241-mile walk. He started with a few people, and later thousands of people would join him as they passed through cities. He'd even stop to speak out to large groups of people at what he was doing and why. By the end of the 24 days, a crowd larger than 2,000 people were following behind him. The goal of this march was to make it to the shore of the Arabian Sea and pick up the salt that lay there to make into salt for eating. However, the British troops had already arrived at the shore and had crushed all the large clumps of salt into the sand in hopes of making it difficult for the Indian people to use. This, of course, didn't stop Gandhi. He managed to find a clump of salt that had not been crushed. He said, "With this, I am shaking the foundations of the British Empire." The British government didn't make any arrests that day, but after this day, many people went to the shore to collect salt, which was still illegal. Gandhi was making plans for a second salt march, except this one was to Haryana. But on May 5, 1930, he was arrested after he had announced it and authorities found out. However, the march still went on. On May 21, 1930, Sarojini Naidu, a poet, led 2,500 people to Haryana even after they were told the police will arrest them. And just like they were told, on their march over, police were waiting to attack the protesters. They were attacked and beaten. Around 80,000 people were arrested due to the protest of many Indians who went to the shores to collect salt. Once Gandhi was released from prison on January 26, 1931, he later met with Lord Irwin, who was the viceroy, to discuss a compromise where Gandhi would end civil disobedience or satyagraha if they released all the people who were arrested in the result of illegally making salt. And on March 5, 1931, the agreement was signed. This agreement also gave the people who lived on the coast the right to make salt, but it didn't put the salt tax to an end for everyone else. The main reason India was being taxed was because Britain drew over them. But on August 15, 1947, 17 years after the Salt March, India finally gained independence from Britain through the Indian Independence Act. Unfortunately, on January 30th, 1948, Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated in New Delhi by a Hindu fanatic who didn't support Gandhi's efforts to end the violence between Hindus and Muslims in India. The common view is that this march was effective and would lead India to independence and other great things for India. I asked Mr. Vartanian at Holland High School whether he thought the Gandhi Salt March was effective or not, and he agreed that it was indeed effective. He said, as I quote, "I would say that the march was successful, yes. It was the first act in the larger campaign of civil disobedience. What Gandhi called Satyagraha. His goal was to wage a peaceful war against British rule in India. The march gained him widespread support among the Indian population and considerable worldwide attention. Some may argue that this act of civil disobedience caused problems for those involved since they were in fact beaten and arrested. Even though this was supposed to be a peaceful protest, they may argue that Gandhi's Salt March added to the violence and more hatred between India and Britain that was already present.